Welcome to Education in Focus. I'm your host, Aliana Carnodal. An organization focused on creating pipelines for students of color to become teachers says it receives payment from public schools, while other reporting indicates it receives funds from private sources. Joining me to discuss this is Chalkboard News editor Brendan Clary. Brendan, tell us about this organization and their mission.
Yeah, so it's called the Center for Black Educator Development, and essentially its mission is to increase the amount of Black teachers there are because they believe that there is a correlation between Black student performance and whether or not they have a Black teacher. So that is like one of their main foundational sort of premises that they have, and it's been around since 2019, I believe, where they kind of launched the organization there. And it's founded by Sharif El-Mekki. He's a founder and the CEO of the center. And essentially, he's, been on the record recently. Most recently, there was a report on from the National Council for Teacher Quality, and they were basically releasing a teacher diversity dashboard to kind of track how far the teaching profession is from the workforce more broadly, and also against how many students of color there are, and to try to see should there be more Black teachers in the teaching profession? And their argument is yes, because of these reasons. So that's kind of the most recent development. Seems to be a partnership between the center and the National Council for Teacher Quality. So these organizations have kind of longer names. So I'll try to keep them straight here. But that's in a nutshell, that's what the organization is.
And what do we know about their funding?
Yeah, so based on previous reporting, there is funding from private sources, like different philanthropic foundations, different companies that have donated because they maybe believe in the cause, or they say we want to encourage Black teachers to join the workforce. And then on the other side, I was looking around the website and I saw that there was a little information tag that basically said, we get a lot of our funding from public schools. So we have partnerships with public schools for these specific programs. So I think both can be true, right? You can have private funds coming in for the organization overall, or for its specific aims, or for a certain conference, right? And you can have different, opportunities for funding. We've seen that even with Chicago Public Schools, for example. It's a public entity, but it, would rely on private donations for specific events. So, there could be that kind of thing of like both and, right? Like it's not exclusive. You don't have just funding from one or the other. But specifically in this case, it said that it does get funding from public school districts, and including charter schools, because it's got a partnership for its career and technical education program, where basically they have a curriculum for students, high school students, to basically try out, get some of that career experience to be a teacher, right? And then again, like that's a program that's, I believe, in a number of different states now, and has a varying degree of students. And I think it was in the 80s for the 2023-2024 school year. There's over 80 students who were in that, and over 400 students total so far have participated in that. So again, these are high school classes partnering with the center, and so some of the funding apparently comes from that.
And what research has been done into these ideas of improving student outcomes by having teachers of the same race?
Yeah, so I think that is something that, that is a foundational premise of the center, right? That having teachers of the same race improves student outcomes. And there has been research that suggests that is true, but I don't think that that's specific to Black teachers and Black students. I think that that's what the researchers found, is that was true of students, and then having teachers of their same race. So I don't think that is an exclusive kind of data point from what it sounds like in terms of the research, the reporting that I did on the research that's out there. And in fact, that a lot of these, I believe, come from a specific experiment from the 1990s, right? So this is older data where people are kind of taking it apart and extrapolating on it. And, they're coming up with some of these conclusions because it was one of these cases where the state had a large number of students, and then they were moved around with teachers. And so you can kind of control for some of these variables in a way that you can't with other data sets. And again, there's been some conflicting stuff too of saying maybe there's not as much credence here as previously thought. So that, again, like the research is not, monolithic that this is the case. In fact, in 2023, there was a Canadian economist named Geoffrey Penny who basically said that same-race teachers do not necessarily raise academic achievement. And he had some nuances and some qualifications to these statements that it does, in fact, help this. He said it's more likely to help students who are lower performing academically, that they're going to see more gains. And that, the classroom dynamic is also specific. He said, like, nobody else really was talking about this, but the effect is more profound when a teacher is the same race as a smaller subset of students in the classroom, right? Then you see that. But if, there's the majority of the classroom is the same race as the teacher, you're not going to see the same kind of, effects on student performance. So there are these like nuances there, which I think, you can kind of gloss over if you're not careful, right? So I think that that's something that researchers are going back and forth about. And I think that to make big claims, you kind of have to look into them and say, like, well, are there other people who are saying different things? Is there more nuance here? What are some of the variables? What are we talking about at the root of it?
And how have other people responded to the ideas of the Center for Black Educator Development? Yeah,
so there's been some criticism specifically from Mika Hackner at the Jewish Institute for Liberal Values. She spoke with the Free Press, I believe in October, and her organization, they released a backgrounder report basically slamming the Center for Black Educator Development and basically called it segregation. They said that that's what the organization wants. And the organization the center has kind of tuned down some of the verbiage in its vision statement. So at one point it said that it did want Black teachers for Black students and said, it wanted same race teachers. And so now it just says it wants Black students to have access to Black teachers and high quality teachers. So kind of walking back some of that, maybe more like a dogmatic approach to that. But still, I think that these critics of the organization have said, it's almost a different vision for the teaching environment and would promote this idea of anti-racism or, to be educator activists and kind of criticizing that and saying that that's not necessarily the education system that we want our students to be part of.
Well, Brennan, thank you for your insights on this story. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at chalkboardnews.com.